Muffins only in the building the Raspberry Rogue. In the Big Apple, in the historic Buttercrumb Towers, the tenants became the victims of a string of robberies by a notorious thief, the Raspberry Rogue. His signature was to leave a single raspberry in place of the jewelry he stole. He stole Mrs. Potts' ruby necklace, Mrs. Green's ruby hair combs. The only definite thing the police seemed to be able to gather about it was his passion for raspberries and rubies. The police had only crumbs to go by. Our favorite trio decided something simply must be done. Gelantina, Steve, and Martin had met to have brunch at Susan's apartment. Something must be done about this for everyone's safety, said Steve. You have to appreciate his flair for the dramatic, said Martin. Yes, there does seem to be an artistic flair about all this, said Gelantina. We need a list of suspects. Who in the building could be the Raspberry Rogue? I think we should start with that new tenant, that Professor Reve Rosaire. I think he's very nosy and suspicious, said Steve. Really? Said Susan. I thought he was rather nice. He came and introduced himself to me the other day and brought me some fresh raspberries, which are so hard to find this time of year. He suggested that we do lunch sometime soon. Ah, how exactly suspicious behavior, said Steve. He's trying to catch you off guard. We can check him out, said Gelantina, but I think we may need to keep our minds open for more suspects. Let's keep our eyes and ears open. The snow was gently falling when they left Susan's apartment. As they were walking, Steve said, Hey guys, I've been thinking about asking Susan out, especially with Valentine's Day around the corner. But I'm really nervous, and now with this Professor Reve showing up. What if she falls for him? You should definitely ask her, said Gelantina. You two definitely have a connection. Just be sweet and genuine. Try to make a special way of asking her. I'm sure she will say yes. Oh yes, Steve, my man, you old Romeo. I know you can sweep her off her feet. You must select the right time and setting. I will help you stage the whole thing. Are you thinking classic hearts, flowers, violins, or more jazz tones, dancing, or perhaps a Latin lover with the passion of a tango? I can choreograph the whole thing. You definitely should wear red. Thanks, guys, said Steve. I will think it over. Suddenly there was a scream in the air. The three friends rushed towards the sound. The door to an apartment was open. Mrs. Ganache was in tears, sobbing into a lace handkerchief. Professor Reve was holding her hand, consoling her. They noticed the safe was open, and inside was a raspberry. What happened? Asked Gelantina. We just returned from a lunch outing and found my ruby bracelet is gone, said Mrs. Ganache between sobs. It was a family heirloom. There, said Professor Reve. The police are on their way. They will be of no help, cried Mrs. Ganache. It was the Raspberry Rogue. Was the bracelet insured? Asked Gelantina. Of course it was, but the money means nothing compared to the emotional value. The police arrived and told the friends to leave while they questioned Mrs. Ganache and the professor. You know, said Gelantina as they left, all of the Raspberry Rogue's victims have been women. I don't think that's a coincidence. I still think Professor Reve is suspicious, said Steve. The next morning Martin was walking his dog Muffy. He saw a man climbing down the fire escape from Mrs. Ganache's apartment. He had binoculars and a camera hanging around his neck. When he saw Martin he waved and said, Great weather for bird watching. I needed a bird's eye view. Thought Martin, that is suspicious. He told Gelantina and Steve when they met up for coffee and to make a suspect list. Steve wrote Professor Reve's name first. I am suspicious of Mrs. Ganache, said Gelantina. That insurance payment may mean more to her than she's letting on. I think it's my bird-watching stranger, said Martin. We need a plan, said Steve. I think we need to talk to Susan, said Gelantina. It was Saturday night. Susan was dressed in red velvet evening gown. She placed an enormous ruby ring on her right hand. Professor Reve knocked on the door. They were attending the opera Ricotta. It was a new opera and the talk of the town. The lights were dim. The tenor on stage was crooning to his lady love. Professor Reve was whispering comments to Susan. After the opera ended, Susan suggested that they go back to her apartment to have her famous raspberry cheesecake muffins. Let me make some coffee to go with our muffins, Susan said as she stepped into her bedroom to remove her gloves and ring. She placed them on her vanity. As Susan bustled around the kitchen, Professor Reve walked around the apartment, admiring Susan's decor. This is a magnificent painting, he said, stepping into the bedroom. His hand brushed the vanity. Suddenly there was a rough and a flash of light. Professor Reve lay on the floor on his back, Muffy pinning him to the ground. Ah, he cried. Gelantina, Martin and Steve emerged from the closet. "We have you red-handed," cried Steve. "Let me up," said Professor Reve. "You are the raspberry rogue," cried Martin, "and we have photographic proof." "We knew you couldn't resist such a tempting ruby," said Gelantina. The police arrived and led the raspberry rogue away. Our friends were sitting around Susan's table enjoying muffins. "So ends another case," said Martin, "but one thing puzzles me. Who was that mysterious bird watcher?" "He was an undercover agent for Mrs. Ganache's insurance company," said Steve. "I was able to talk to him yesterday." "Well," said Gelantina, "that was delicious, Susan, but with a yawn, all this excitement has me ready for bed. Come on, Martin, Muffy is getting tired too." She winked at Steve as they left. "Susan," said Steve, "there's something I've been meaning to ask you." The snow was falling gently outside. Inside, soft candlelight glowed. Ella Fitzjam was playing softly on the record player. Steve and Susan were swaying cheek to cheek as dinner warmed in the oven. That it was February 14th. Until next time, Muffins, only in the building.
I look at you and suddenly there is mustard on your tie. There is something in your eyes bewitching me. It's that old deviled egg.
If you want to support my work, you can always buy me a coffee.